SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rollers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
This is the voice of the Cleveland Monsters, Tony Brown, and you're listening to Sports on Tap.
You're listening to Sports on Tap, presented by RRT Productions. Here are your hosts, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
And welcome to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Troutman. We're in Studio J, and it's our regional semifinals of high school football here on Sports on Tap. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy. Ed Dick will join us at the 8 o'clock hour to go over his team that is in the Great Lakes Conference, Holy Name, and we'll see what they did in the playoffs. But, guys, we're back. Week 12 is over with. And
we're all a cohesive unit. We've been broken up a little bit over the last couple weeks. Due to some weather, due to some traveling issues, but we're here and we're a family. We're getting through some stuff. There's some off-air conversations that need to happen. I think.
No, I think we've
come to a nice little fork.
Hey, everybody's allowed to agree to disagree,
and that's I think what we should do. Let's move on. But we have playoff action. What's that, boys?
That's right.
Playoffs.
That's right. We had a lot of playoff action going on this week, guys. And, you know, when you look at the playoffs, things get a little bit tighter with these teams. The weather starts to get a little bit colder. And I think we had some really good matchups, Josh. I know in Region 1, Division 1, for you, there were still some teams. You know, Medina lost last week, but you still had the Euclid Panthers going against the St. Edward Eagles.
Thanks for the segue, Rob. That's exactly where we will start at Division I, Region 1. This was a battle of the number 2 seeded St. Edward's Eagles and the number 3 seeded Euclid Panthers. And actually, in this game, to start off early, Euclid actually scored first. They led the game off with an 84-yard drive down to the St. Edward's 7. And then they ended up getting some points on the board with a 24-yard field goal by Mamadou Mbe. I hope I get that right. And the score was 3-0 Euclid up top. On the next drive, Eds answered with a 72-yard drive at zone, capped by a 1-yard run by running back Joe Formani, and that made it 7-3. The Eagles then scored another touchdown to make it 13-9 in this one. Euclid also scored in this one also. It was a 26-yard touchdown by Javon Colvin. This is where the extra point was no good. I apologize there. And that made it 13-9 Euclid with 3:55 left in the half. The Eagles would add one more field goal before the half, and then the score was 16-9 at the half. Whoa, I'm all over the place today.
I'm just letting you go.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. The whole story of the game was the second half. That's when the St. Andrew Eagles actually took over, led by quarterback Connor O'Malley. He added, with his already one touchdown pass in the first half, he added 4 more in the second half. 1 to Nick Dotter, 1 to Mackenzie Wainwright, and 2 to Montori Foster. For Connor O'Malley, that ties a school record for 5 touchdown passes in a game. They did add a 20-yard field goal in this one, and it was all Eds in the second half, and then eventually the game as St. Edward's went on to a 47-9 victory in this game. This game was played at Twinsburg Tiger. I'm sorry, this was played at Brunswick High School. Geez, right down the road.
Right down the road.
I'm all over the place today. Got a case of the Mondays, and I apologize for that. But I'll get it right on the second game that we have in our recap. It was the number 1 seed Menor Cardinals. They took on the number 4 seed Camp McKinley Bulldogs. And again, as Menor has at it all season, they scored over 30 points. For the 10th time this season, and they actually kept their opponent under 20 for the 9th time. Menor wins at 34-13 over Camp McKinley, and they got off to a fast start in the first half. They were up 17-0. Brian Trobel had not only a rushing touchdown, but also a receiving touchdown. Andrew Smith added a field goal for Menor as they got up early. In the second quarter, after a Menor fumble, the tide kind of changed a little bit. You felt the momentum changing a little bit for the Bulldogs. However, they were not able to score any points on the ensuing drive, and that kind of kept the momentum slightly favoring the Cardinals. Brian Trobel did add his 3rd touchdown of the first half with another rushing touchdown, and it was Menor up 24-7 at the half. In the fourth quarter, for its final score, Ian Kipp hit Luke Floria for a passing and receiving touchdown. Again, the final score in this game, 34-13. All Menor in this one, they were led by Brian Trobel. 280 total yards of offense. 220 of them were on the ground, 60 in the air. Ian Kipp had 2 touchdown passes, and this one a total of 102 yards passing. And that sets up a number 1 versus number 2 rematch in the regional finals. This game will be played at Byers Field in Parma this Friday at 7 p.m. Number 1 Menor against number 2 St. Edward's Eagles. This is actually a rematch of week 1 of the regular season. Menor actually squeaked away with a 29-28 victory. I have a feeling it's going to be just as close this coming Friday. And that wraps it up for Region 1. In Division 1, if we can get the computer going real quick, we can quickly get you the regional finals for the other Division 1 games here. But the computer, there we go. Technology is great when it's useful. In Division 1 Region 2, it's going to be Springfield against Dublin Coffin. That game will take place at London High School.
Kaufman,
what did I say?
Coffin.
It depends on the game. It could be. In Region 3, Groveport-Madison, the number 4 ranked Groveport-Madison will take on the number 2 ranked Pickerington Central. And then finally in Division 4, coming up here slowly but surely.
Yeah, there's an upset as Cincinnati St. Xavier lost to Cincinnati Elder 28-24. So Elder will take on Cincinnati Coleraine, who won 28-7.
great upset by Cincinnati Elder, but now they have to play a team like Coleraine, which is
they're 10-2 this year.
It's a football factory down there, man.
11-1.
Yeah, it seems
Cincinnati,
to be the same
Coleraine.
names every year.
Yeah, Elder, St. X, Coleraine, they're all the same down in Cincinnati. Those are the top teams in that area.
Yeah, and if you look at St. Edward, their one loss came to Menor. That's the only game they've lost this year, so that's going to be a great game at 7 p.m. at
yeah,
Palmer
and
Byers
I think everyone was looking forward to this rematch. You know, when the playoffs were set, it was kind of geared toward these two teams kind of meeting up. And in this game, at the last two games, the St. Edward offense has been on fire. They're setting they're setting or tying school records. Last week they had 73 points. In this week's game, they scored 47 points. And then all year we've been talking about Menor's defense. So which is going to win out? It seems now Menor's offense is nothing to, be too. Menor's offense can hold a candle to the St. Edward's offense as well. But it's really going to be a matchup of that defense and of Menor and that offense of St. Ed's, and which one will come out on top. It remains to be seen. But I think it's going to be a very tightly contested game. And we'll just have to wait and see this Friday at Byers Field in Parma.
Well, I mean, when you look at this as a rematch, nothing's really going to change too much between these teams from when they played in Week 1 versus Week 13. I think we're in for. I totally agree with you, Josh. I think this is going to be a tightly contested game. I think it's going to be something that's going to probably come down to maybe a special teams play or a misstep on special teams that could turn the tide a little bit. But I also wouldn't be shocked if one team just came out gangbusters and hit on all cylinders and took control. I mean, this is one of those games where it's hard to predict how it's going to go because there's so many ways it could go. I agree with you that St. Ed's has looked very good considering what they kind of how they played in Week 1 versus Menor. Part of that had to do with Menor's defense. Menor's defense has been very, very consistent all year. They haven't been in a lot of close games, except for obviously Lake St. Edward's and St. Ignatius games, but they also were kind of in a close game this week too. I mean, it's not. I mean, granted, it was a 34-13 win, but it wasn't exactly a 40. It wasn't a 73-0 blowout. It was a team that was very good that came in. It was on a neutral field, not out of the friendly confines of Menor. That's something and now you're going to a very, very neutral, possibly maybe favoring a St. Ed's because it's in Parma, which, at least once every 2 years they play St. Ignatius there. So that, they draw and so does Menor and they travel well. It's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out. Very exciting for, I think, the area because there's a lot of really good rematches, I think, coming up, and we're foreshadowing a bit into the other divisions where we could see what were the best games of Week 1 kind of become the best games of a regional final, and I think you could see that here.
Yeah, real quick, this is also, just one other note, this is also a rematch of last year's regional final. These two teams were pitted up against each other. Last year, St. Ed's, on their way to a state championship, beat the Cardinals 24-14.
Very true.
Yeah, and then Sean, you mentioned real quick, this was kind of a tight game per se, 34-13, and the team kind of talked about it after the game. According to their quotes on Cleveland.com, Ian Kipp said, just think we're a little too complacent. We thought it was going to be easier than it was, so we just didn't execute on the highest. Were they maybe looking ahead a little bit to that possible rematch? I know Coach Trevisano was not they were happy with the win, but just
happy to advance, but not happy with the performance.
Exactly. So they definitely need to clean up some things according to themselves, and I think they will. They'll be on their game, and we're looking forward to a great game this Friday.
It'll be fun to see how that one turns out. No doubt about that. Well, now we'll go into the Southwestern Conference. There still were two teams remaining in the Southwestern Conference, and that being the number 1 seeded Avon Eagles. They're undefeated going and playing a Cleveland Benedictine team who still had a great season.
Coming off a big win over Brecksville.
In which Brecksville had the game, and Benedictine was able to pull it out. Now, in this game, the Eagles, they come into this game with 5 offensive starters that were out due to injury. They had 8 overall injuries from players on their team, but that still wouldn't stop them on the offensive game plan, with their numbers looking pretty high in this game against a very good Benedictine team. But Benedictine, they would strike first. It was Marvin Conkle on a 95-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. It was 7-0, but Avon's Devin Hunter, the running back, would answer for Avon, scoring the next 2 touchdowns, and Avon would take a 14-7 lead. Avon then did fumble the football, and Benedictine would capitalize, tying the game at 14 in the game, but Avon before half would score 14 unanswered points, and it was 28-14 at half. And then Avon in the second half, they wouldn't stop their scoring there, as Nico Pappas, who's filling in at quarterback, had an 8-yard touchdown run. The scoring, though, would go back and forth between Benedictine and Avon in this game, and the Eagles, though, would come out on top 49-28. Avon will match up with the winner of our next game, which we'll tell you about here shortly. Some top performers, though, from this game. It was Avon's Devin Hunter. He had 31 rushes for 206 yards. Nico Pappas, the quarterback, 21 rushes, 171 yards for Avon. And Nico Pappas, the quarterback, also threw for 115 yards. So the passing of Avon did go down, especially being able to run the football as well as they have been. But for Benedictine, the Bengals, Jalen Edwards, their running back, had 12 rushes for 81 yards. And passing, it was the quarterback Schultz with 129 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. Avon improves to 12-0 on the season, as Benedictine now drops to 10-2. Our next game, which Sean will join me on, was the number 2 Avon Lake Shoreman taking on the number 3 Wadsworth Grizzlies. And, I thought this game would be a really physical game, and I think by reading some of these articles and people that were there, it was a physical game.
It was, and I think it came down to the one thing we talked about ad nauseum, I think, last week, was the teams that can limit mistakes, and on the flip side, the teams that can capitalize on the mistakes that are made are going to be more successful, and that's what happened here.
Yeah.
We'll get into this, but when you turn the ball over 5 times and 3 of those 5 end up coming back for touchdowns, it's going to be hard to come back from that, and that's exactly what happened. Wadsworth quarterback Trey Schaefer finished the game 15 of 29, 174 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, but threw 4 interceptions. And Dominic Laparo had 25 carries, 173 yards, but a crucial fumble in the second half. So that's 5 turnovers. You can't give the other team 5 turnovers, and especially in a playoff game with a team like Avon Lake, who can pound the ball, who can throw the ball when needed, and that's exactly what happened. Gabe Dusler and Michael Corbo were able to convert. It's one thing to make the mistake, but then to compound it with allowing the other team to score. The problem is that a lot of these turnovers happened in their own territory, and it just set up their defense to be playing with their backs against the wall, and a good team like Avon Lake took advantage, and that's exactly what happened here.
Well, and Wadsworth led 21-14 heading into the fourth quarter. Harry Hebert missed 2 field goals, though, early in this game, which could have cost them, but like you said, I think the one major play with a fumble by Dom Laparo, and you can't blame him. He's had a great season.
Which is uncharacteristic of Dom Laparo. He's been we talked about it last week, as he goes, that team goes. But it's just a lot of what happens in the playoff is, can you make your star players do something that's not in their nature? Dom Laparo does not fumble the ball a lot. He fumbled in this game. Trey Schaefer has not thrown a lot of interceptions this year. Threw 4 this year. I mean, 4. They turned the ball over 4 times in the second half. They left 6 points on the board. I mean, you can't do that in playoff football and expect to win. And not to take anything away from Avon Lake's execution, but Avon Lake did force 5 turnovers in a game. They won the game, and that's exactly what happened. Obviously the blame's going to fall on Wadsworth and those 4 interceptions. Sure, it's easy to blame the quarterback, but take nothing away from. We saw it firsthand.
They're still there too.
Two straight times this year. Avon Lake's defense gets after the quarterback, whether you're passing, whether you're running. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're fundamentally coached. You cannot take advantage. You can't count on them to give you an opportunity. You have to execute, and you have to be able to do that. And Wadsworth did not do that this year or in this game. And Avon Lake forced pressure on the quarterback, which forced Trey Schaefer to do some uncharacteristic things and throw 4 interceptions in a game. That's the headline. And Avon Lake offensively, as they did in the first week when we saw them, took advantage of either miscues on the offensive or in the case of Maple Heights, miscues on the special teams, but also miscues in this game with interceptions and turnovers. They're going to make you pay, and that sets up what I think is probably going to be. No offense to the Lakewood St. Edward, or no offense to St. Ed's Menor, but now we have an opportunity. I mean, let's just first give you the score. The final score was 31-21 in favor of Avon Lake. I had put some stats. Was there stats for Corbo and Dusler?
Let's see. Yeah, it was Dusler had 125 yards rushing, and Corbo was 14 of 25 for 164 yards.
I mean, that's
passing.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want out of your quarterback. Take advantage of the mistakes that your defense forced to the other team. Now we set up essentially a Southwestern Conference championship game.
Yeah,
I mean, the 2 top teams in the Southwestern Conference are playing for a regional final right now,
and a rematch of our Week 1 game of the week.
And that was a great game too.
Avon Lake has only lost 1 game this season. That coming in Week 1 to the Avon Eagles,
and I believe they only lost by what?
1 point.
Yeah,
it was
13-12.
13-12, and in that game, it was a very slow first half start for Avon Lake, and then they really picked it up in the second half, and I think if they would have put together 3/4 of a full game, they would have came away with a victory.
But again, Avon finds a way to win. I mean, that's a program that's there. They were down
all the injuries.
They were down 8 guys going into a regional semifinal and still put up 49 points. That's not something that you easily do. I think this game has the potential to be the best game in the area. I outside of Menor, St. Ed's, but again,
for sure,
these are two, these are 2 backyard rivals. We have a backyard rivalry to determine who goes on to the state Final Four. And Avon Lake, we've seen their defense all year. They have not given up a lot of points. Even to the mighty Avon in Week 1, they gave up 13 points.
Well, I think these 2 teams right here can easily hold their own in Division I. If they were in that playoff matchup up there. I mean, these are just 2 well-coached teams. Backyard rivals. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, 1 versus 2, and it'll be played at North Ridgeville High School. So I like that they kept it in Lorain County.
Well, they had to. You're not gonna make half of Lorain County drive to.
Make them drive
to Medina County for no reason at all.
So it'll be a fun game, 1 versus 2, in a rematch of Week 1, and it shows you the Southwestern Conference still hanging in, and Avon Lake, I mean, they could have easily gotten down on their Week 1 loss. Instead, they continue on to take on the Avon Eagles. So that will be played on Friday at North Ridgeville High School.
And just to put a pin on the Wadsworth season, obviously ends in disappointment. They finished 9-3. They ended up clinching a share or earning a share of the national division title with a big win over Brecksville in Week 10. Again, we talked about it last week. For them to make to the state Final Four, they were going to have to beat the top 3 teams in the Southwestern Conference. They took care of business against Olmsted Falls.
Yeah.
I think admittedly shot themselves in the foot against Avon Lake, and had they gotten through that, they would have probably had to play Avon. I mean, that's asking a lot of a team to basically play a very, very game schedule in the National Division of the Suburban League, but also then play the top tier of what is considered one of the better public school leagues in the state and in the Southwestern Conference. So
yeah, and now you look at Division II, Region 5. You have Massillon, Washington, undefeated at 12-0, and they take on an 11-1 Akron
Another
Archbishop
big,
Hoban.
Huge game. That's a huge game.
And that's at the University of Akron Infocision Stadium.
It'll probably be sold out.
Oh, that's a huge stadium.
Which is more than you could say for any Akron Zip game this year.
Yeah, and they had, I think, it looked like 100 people at the one game. Some guy took a picture and put it on Twitter. It was not good.
No.
But Massillon Washington beat Massillon Perry 35-7, and Akron Archbishop Hoban had a close game against Mayfield, but they defeated them 21-17. So Massillon Washington, the number 1 seed, will take on Archbishop Hoban there. Going to Division II Region 7, we'll go a little bit more, and it's Toledo Central Catholic undefeated at 12-0, and taking on Lewis Center Olentangy, the number 6 seed and a 7-5 record, as they beat White House Anthony Wayne, who was undefeated at 11-0. They were the number 2 seed, so they are a little bit on a roll. Can they knock out now the number 1 seed? Lewis Center Olentangy taking on Toledo Central Catholic there in Region 7, Division 2. Now looking in Division 2 Region 8, it is Cincinnati LaSalle at 10-2, the number 1 seed taking on Harrison 11-1, and the number 3 seed. And Harrison won 42-7 over Columbus St. Francis de Sales. And Cincinnati LaSalle defeated Columbus Walnut Ridge, the number 5 seed, but they were undefeated going in. So there's a few games there that are a little bit south that you might not hear about, but a lot of great matchups in Division 2. So right now we'll step away, take a short break. When we come back, we'll get Ed Dick on the RRT Productions hotline to go over what happened with Holy Name and talk some other divisions in high school football. Only a few more, along with Sean Duffy,
who had a Suburban League team
still playing
in the semifinals. Might want to mention that.
Hey, I was still talking about going over other divisions, so
okay.
I was going to get to you.
No. I'm sure the Greenmen really appreciate me.
The Aurora Greenmen are going to continue their season.
You giving Holy Name such clout.
All right, we'll step away.
They'll send emails, bro.
We're Sports on Tap. We'll be right back with more high school football.
Why do you exercise? To look better? To feel better? To drop a few pounds? To train for an event? To defy age? Or to keep your ability to say yes to the things you love to do? Whatever motivates you, G&G Fitness Equipment is here to get you there. Treadmills, ellipticals, rowers, bikes, home gyms, and accessories. We'll pair you with the right equipment, teach you how to use it, and be there every step of your fitness journey. G&G Fitness. Your goal is our goal.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap. No matter the season, it's always the right time for Z's Cream and Bean. Whether you want to warm up with some of their delicious soups, chilies, or coffees, or sample from their delicious selection of ice cream, shakes, and other cool treats, Z's Cream and Bean has you covered. Visit them at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley, Ohio, and tell them the guys at Sports on Tap sent you.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Okay, you want to support a great local store that supports Cleveland and Ohio sports. GV Artwork and Design has the best stylish sports apparel, whether it's Cleveland sports, college gear, I've seen high school gear, your favorite sports teams, not just Cleveland, they have it all. Now, a special offer for Sports on Tap listeners. Use the code ONTAP10 and receive 10% off your full order. Go to gvartwork.com. That's gvartwork.com. GV Art and Design, original and one of a kind.
Hi, Mike Emmerich from the NHL on NBC. For the best coverage of the Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, listen to Sports on Tap.
And welcome back to Sports on Tap, our Ohio High School football coverage playoff edition. Here in getting to the regional semifinals, where next we'll get to Division III Region 9, where Sean Duffy has the Green Men undefeated at 11-0.
Much to Rob's surprise, the Suburban League is still alive in the playoffs.
They're the number 4 ranked team, Sean Duffy, and they went against
number 1 ranked New Philadelphia. And
yeah.
Rob, let me tell you, this game got off to a very auspicious start if you're a New Philadelphia fan. Aurora would force an opening drive fumble from New Philadelphia and score 3 plays later to take a quick 7-0 lead. And this is kind of how the game ended up for New Philadelphia. Aurora kind of did what they did. They what they've been doing all year. Capitalizing on turnovers, playing lights-out defense, and scoring with some really, really good playmakers. Specifically, don't call him a sophomore anymore because according to a quote from the Cleveland.com, Coach Bob Mahalik said he's no longer a sophomore. In technicality, he's a sophomore, but he's playing much, much older than he is. And that's quarterback Alex Moore, who had four passing touchdowns on the evening to lead the Aurora Greenmen to a 34-17 victory over the number 1 seeded New Philadelphia. I don't know their names, the New Philadelphia. They were number 1 seeded. But Aurora's defense had been done something they've done all year, and that's hold opposing offenses, particularly potent opposing offenses, to low points. And this week was no different, as they held New Philadelphia's offense to just 17 points. Now, New Philadelphia had been averaging 41 points a game. And Aurora's defense came in and did what they've done all year and slowed down these potent offenses to a crawl and capitalized. Now, Aurora is now set up to play in the Division III Region 9 final against number 6 Chardon, who defeated slow computers.
Chardon defeated Streetsboro, who came in the number 2 ranked seed and was 11-0.
Thank you.
And Chardon dominated this game, 35-0. Defensively, obviously holding a good Streetsboro team who was undefeated at no points. Yeah. Chardon's always been pretty impressive. Every year.
They sure have. I mean, they've had some
Hilltoppers.
They've had a couple down years, so to speak, over the last 4 or 5. But, it's very interesting to see that the top seeds in this, New Philadelphia and number 2 ranked Streetsboro, did not make it to the regional finals. Everyone thought this was I think this was in my opinion, I'll even ask Ed, I can ask you guys too, a a misseeded region. I think Aurora clearly was probably the best, and I think Chardon should not have been a 6 seed. They probably should have been more of a 4 seed, to be honest with you. And I think Aurora should have been a number 1 seed because I wasn't impressed. If you just look at gameplay and who they played and how they beat people, Aurora's been really impressive since the beginning of the season. And even we commented a few times. There were times that they gave up multiple shutouts to these teams. So it's been something that's, that kind of stuck in my craw when I looked at Region 9 is, taking nothing away from New Philadelphia and Streetsboro. They had fine seasons, but I think if you're looking at the power ranking of this particular region, I would say Aurora and Chardon are probably the 2 best teams, and it's obviously that's why they play them. And now we're going to see who the best in this region is, and I'm very interested to see how Aurora's defense stops Chardon or goes about stopping Chardon, because Chardon's put up some points all year, but Aurora's has been running into these teams that have seemed to be putting up points upon points upon points, but just whenever they run into this defense, they're playing sound football, very much like Avon Lake that we discussed. They're coached very well. They do a very good job of limiting mistakes or allowing teams to get big plays on them, and then just kind of grind the will out of them by the first and second half. By the second and third quarter. That's where they make their hay, and they end up being in a situation where they're up big. Thanks in no small part to a quarterback, Alex Moore. I mean, he's only a sophomore, playing probably better than most juniors at his position, maybe even most seniors. This guy's got 2 more years in Aurora, and they're only going to get better. Mm-hmm. Saying nothing of the fact of good wide receivers like Johnny Popish, Barner, and targets out there for him to hit. But I mean, you gotta love if you're Bob Mahalik and you're saying, look, I got a guy who's playing very, very well for me, and he's got 2 more years to get better, and he's already battle-tested in a playoff atmosphere, 2 of them, in fact. You can't ask for much, and he's a leader, and that's the best thing about it, I think. So hats off to the Aurora Agreement, continuing their journey, continuing their undefeated streak. They are now 13-0, 12-0. 12-0. They're looking to go 13-0 next week against Chardon. Sorry about that. In the Division 3 Region 9 final, which will be played 7 p.m. Friday night at Solon Stewart Field.
That is correct, Sean. Yeah. So that's going to be a really good matchup. Mm-hmm. Chardon's had a really good year thus far. Aurora, like you said, you're kind of looking at having a young quarterback with gaining that experience. It's kind of similar to Joe Labas at Brexford Bravee Heights, where he started as a freshman. It came in, and you could see that progression. And as he goes, the team goes. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the same thing for Aurora. And they just have to look to develop around him as much as possible.
It helps that you have a lights-out defense, giving you opportunity upon opportunity to put points on the board. And that's something that's, Aurora's done very well this year, is defensively holding teams to not a lot of points and really shutting down these very, prolific passing attacks or these really good running backs or really good quarterbacks. Aurora's beaten them all, and they've not given up a lot of points in the process.
Yeah. They continue to win, let's put it. And Aurora undefeated as they move on. Sean, nice job there.
Thank you.
And now let's go to the RT Productions hotline. We're joined by the one, the only, Ed Dick. And, Ed, thanks for joining us here.
Hey, glad to be here again. Regional semifinals coming up here. I know you guys have done a great job so far breaking down your stretch of matchups. And I do have one in the docket from the Great Lakes Conference. 4 teams advanced to the playoffs. 1 team advanced past round 1. That was the GLC co-champion, holy name Green Wave, hailing from Parma Heights. They took on Mansfield Senior High School. This game was last Friday night in Worcester in Division 3, Region 10. And this game got off to a rough start for the Green Waves on the second play of the game.
Hey, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty there with Ed's phone. We'll see if we can get him back on the thing. But as he mentioned, our first year covering the Great Lakes Conference did produce some very intriguing matchups coming into the playoffs. Essentially, with the ability to have 4 teams make it to the initial round of the playoffs, but only 1 team, Holy Name, make it through. It's definitely something that we could discuss, further once we get Ed's technical issues laid out. As Holy Name was traveling to see if they can continue on their championship dreams going forward. But just to kind of park back to what we talked about, with the matchups, isn't it odd that we're seeing a lot of matchups that are rematches, so to speak, of earlier games? It speaks to, one, the parity in this area, but also it speaks to just the fact that good teams find a way to play each other. You know what I mean? Mentor does not shy away from the parochial schools. Avon Lake are 2 top teams in the Southwestern Conference every year. Aurora versus Chardon. These are really great matchups and things that we can get together, and especially in a playoff situation, especially with such say Final Four berth on the line. And, a regional championship on the line. It's definitely something that we can look forward to, and it's interesting to kind of follow that as we see, throughout these playoffs. We're going to try again. Ed, are you there?
I'm here. Are you
All right,
guys there?
we are here. We can hear you loud and clear. Take it away, Ed. Tell us what happened when Holy Name played their regional semifinals.
All right, very well. The Great Lakes Conference co-champion Holy Name Green Wave, hailing from Parma Heights, traveled to Worcester in their matchup. This was a number. Well, I'm looking at the wrong region. Whoops. This was a number
it's happened all night.
Versus number 2. This was a 6 versus 2 matchup in Division 3, Region 10. Last week, Holy Name got a 14-7 victory over Tiffin Columbian. Mansfield Senior, their opponent for this matchup. The number 2 seed. They were a 28-0 winner over Bay Village Bay in the first round of the playoffs. And this game did not start out well for Holy Name. Second play of the game, Holy Name fumbles at their own 27-yard line. 3 plays later, Terrence Flickinger. We talked about him a lot last week in their victory over Bay. He scored on a 7-yard run, and just with barely over 2 minutes gone in the first quarter, the Tigers, Tigers, were up 7-0. The Tigers defensively quickly forced a 3-and-out. They got the ball back, and then quarterback Cam Todd threw a screen pass to Cyrus Ellerby, and that went for a 62-yard touchdown and a 14-0 lead. Holy Name drove deep into Mansfield territory. However, Flickinger, he goes both ways. He picked off a pass near his own goal line. He took it back 40 yards, and then he decided to cap off that drive with a 4-yard touchdown run. And Mansfield led very quickly, 21-0, with just under 4 minutes left in the first quarter. So the Tigers blitzed the Green Wave pretty quickly in the first quarter. Holy Name, they hung around. They got on the board. They had a 1-yard touchdown run by Garrett Sparks, and then a 23-yard touchdown pass from quarterback Nick McCurry to Armani Burton to cut the lead to 21-14 with 1:14 left in the first half. So Holy Name's thinking, it wasn't the best start, but they cut it to 1 score going into the half. However, the Tigers scored on a 45-yard touchdown pass from Cam Todd to Angelo Gross. That gave Mansfield a 28-14 nothing at the half, or 28-14 lead at the half. And the Tigers extended the lead. Aiden Kreider connected from 33 yards out with a field goal. Holy Name quickly scored. They scored on a touchdown pass from Nick McCurry to Chris Bowden for a 15-yard touchdown pass. Mansfield was just a little too much for Holy Name. Armani Gross scored. Angelo Gross scored on a 43-yard touchdown run, and then Cam Todd iced it with a 15-yard touchdown run. And the final score, Mansfield 45, Parma Heights Holy Name 30. Mansfield, the number 2 seed, advances to their first ever regional championship game in program history. They will take on Sandusky. The Sandusky Blue Streaks got a 31-15 victory over the number 1 seed Norwalk in their Division 3 Region 10 semifinals. So next Friday, this coming Friday, the 22nd at 7 p.m., the number 5 seed Sandusky Blue Streaks will take on the number 2 seed Mansfield Senior Tigers. That game will be played at Clyde High School up closer to the Toledo area. For Holy Name, I would say that it obviously wasn't their best game. They did put up the most points against Mansfield. Mansfield did not give up 30 points all year. So credit Coach Wondolowski and the Green Wave. They had a great. They hung around. They didn't quit. And Mansfield's team was just a little too much for them. Some stats of note: Nick McCurry, quarterback, he completed 13 of 32 passes from 148 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. He didn't throw an interception. Rushing-wise, Trevor Dotson led the way, 11 rushes for 92 yards. From the receiving end, 3 different receivers scored touchdowns: Armani Burton, Chase Bowden, and Will Ehrbar. The leading receiver was Trevor Dotson, 5 catches for 46 yards. So a great season by Holy Name. There is by no means is it a disappointing season. Obviously, the end goal of every team is to win the state championship game. But Holy Name has a lot to be proud of. Co-champions of the GLC, qualified for the playoffs, win a playoff game, and they gave arguably the best team left in Division 3, Region 10 a good run for their money. Mansfield and Terrence Flickinger. Terrence Flickinger is a player. He's very, very good, and he was just a little too much for the Holy Name Green Wave defense. So Holy Name finishes 9-3 overall. Tremendous season. Congratulations to them once again. So we just went over Division 3, Region 10. We'll quickly go over Division 5, Region 18. You may remember last week, Elyria Catholic, one of the GLC schools, took on defending state champion, the Orville Red Riders, and they were felled 34-13. Orville took on Miriam Pleasant. That game was played at Mansfield Arnold Field. Orville with a 49-27 victory. They advanced to the Region 18 finals. They will take on number 1 ranked Oak Harbor. Oak Harbor won 34-14 over Pemberville Eastwood. So as a result, on Saturday night at Elyria High School at the new stadium out there, which is a beautiful stadium, Oak Harbor, number 1 seed, will take on the defending Division 5 state champion Orville Red Riders. They were the number 2 seed. That game will take place at 7 p.m. And then one more local Division 5 bracket that we'll talk about, just because they're both teams that are generally covered in the Plain Dealer area. Defending Division 6 champion Kirtland. I should probably check that before I say that. Regardless, they moved up from Division 6 to Division 5. They won 38-7 against Canfield South Range. They are the number 1 seed in that division. They will take on the only team to defeat Orville so far this year, Akron Manchester. Manchester, a 21-14 victory over Sugar Creek Garaway. And we got another 1-2 matchup that will take place Saturday night at Bedford High School. The Kirtland Hornets taking on the Manchester Panthers. Kirtland with Tiger Laverty and that tremendous team that they have out there will take on the winningest coach in Ohio history, Jim France, and his Akron Manchester Panthers. Ethan Wright is Manchester's big running back. Tremendous player. We'll see what he can do against that vaunted Kirtland defense. So we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here, guys. Regional championships are to be determined next week. They will be the state semifinals. Again, those will be played at neutral sites. And then finally, the state championship will be played, as we know, in the Canton-Massillon area. So overall, from the Great Lakes Conference, all the Great Lakes Conference's teams are done playing for the year. Tremendous season. Again, congratulations to the playoff teams, Bay Village, Medina Buckeye, Elyria Catholic, and Holy Name, and congratulations to Holy Name for advancing in the playoffs. And gentlemen, for your respective teams as well, I believe Mentor is still alive, Avon Lake, Avon, and Aurora, all carrying the flags in your respective conferences. So good luck to each of those teams in their regional championship games. Rob, you're at least guaranteed a regional winner, right?
Yeah, exactly. One team will be remaining out of the Southwestern Conference, and I'm sure Avon and Avon Lake wouldn't have it any other way as it comes down to those teams. But, yeah, Holy Name, what a great season they had. And in the Great Lakes Conference, I thought it was a fun year in the Great Lakes Conference. I mean, you saw Buckeye their first season in the Great Lakes Conference. How do you think the Buckeye Bucks did with their first season in the Great Lakes Conference?
I think it's safe to say that Buckeye exceeded expectations. They may not think that they exceeded their own expectations. I think they came into this conference expecting to compete and win the conference like they have in the Patriot Athletic Conference in the past decade or so. But I think to everyone on the outside, they proved a lot of people wrong. I think a lot of people may have thought that they were a big fish in a small pond in the Patriot Athletic Conference. They quickly just proved that by being able to hang with a lot of Division II and Division III teams. Their only losses to a fellow Division III team. They defeated 3 Division II teams in all the Parma schools. They took out a very powerful Division V school in Elyria Catholic. This move to the conference was great for them in the respect that they were able to suffer 2 losses and still host a playoff game. I'm not convinced that would have been the case had they remained in the Patriot Athletic Conference.
Yeah.
Especially given that not many teams out of the newly formed Lorain County League even made the playoffs. They're just moving up a direction or moving up a step in competition really proved to be beneficial for Buckeye. And now the important part, not only for Buckeye but for a lot of these schools, is can they sustain it? Can someone establish themselves as a powerhouse in this specific conference? Buckeye was clearly able to do so in the PAC. And so far in the GLC, we've had different champions of the conference. We had Bay has been on top. Valley Forge made the playoffs last year. Holy Name has one that helped co-share the championship this year. Elyria Catholic is a force to be reckoned with. There's a lot of talent up and down in this conference, and we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing how Buckeye will build their program, continue to build their program, and continue to compete. The other schools, at least in my estimation, have been competing against each other or like-minded or like schools for a while. So to me, it's no different for them. Having Buckeye join that conference, it's okay, another Division III team joined us. Buckeye had to step up in competition. They proved very, very well this year, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how they're going to sustain their success going forward.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Great Lakes Conference, like you said, I mean, a lot of teams are just beating up each other for the most part, but it's a really competitive league. Like you said, we saw it with Elyria Catholic. We saw it with Bay. I thought Bay's always at the top, and this year, Buckeye showed kind of where they belong in this conference. Holy Name with just a great season. It's and even Valley Forge and some of the Parma schools as well were competing. They had a little bit of a struggle this year, but it's a fun league, and I thought you did a great job covering it this year. And congratulations to all the teams, like you said, in the Great Lakes Conference that made the playoffs this year.
Oh, for sure. This was a great conference to cover. I couldn't have been. When we were talking about possibly picking this conference up, to further our support, for what we've been doing with Buckeye. It's just geographically and competitively, it just made a lot of sense for us to do this, and I can safely say that we were not disappointed. Did not disappoint.
No doubt.
We were able to go to a couple of those games. They were just like we do with all of our conferences, visiting them as our game of the week. Again, geographically friendly for our coverage area, and really for our drive. It was a great fit, we all took care of our respective conferences. Sean, big kudos to you for taking on my beloved national division of the Suburban League to really help make this possible. All around team effort there.
Thanks, man. And it was very difficult.
Yeah, he was really stressed out about it. It was a long season for him. He really struggled this season.
I should thank Aurora for taking care of the American division like 3 weeks in, so I could focus on the national division and what that powder keg turned out to be come week 10.
Yeah, no kidding. Not that I'll speak a little bit on the national division as that was my conference for quite a while. How about Brecksville? Tremendous season by them. Co-winning the championship after a winless season. I know Sean's talked about that at length. With Joe Labus being healthy, that made a world of difference. And he's only a junior, so there's a lot to look forward to if you're a Brecksville Broadview Heights.
Bees.
Fan for next season. They got a good thing going there. Nordonia, they have a lot of young guys out there. Billy Levac, brother of departed quarterback Robbie Levac, and Sal Perrine, brother of Anthony Perrine. And I believe there's another set of brothers. I think there's another brother there somewhere from someone I work with as a Nordonia supporter, and he kind of fills me in on some of this stuff. Nordonia, I can see those guys doing things to what happened when Robbie Levac was a senior with Billy Levac. Wadsworth's just consistent, tremendous program there. Hudson, Stowe's got a sophomore quarterback, Owen Bainbridge. He's going to be a stud for the next 2 years. He was named Division I Inland All-District quarterback, which is no small feat as a sophomore, so congratulations to him and Stowe. Hudson is always also consistent. Cuyahoga Falls won some games this year. I'm really, really happy to see that, led by Rob Graves, and that, from what I understand, a 1940s single-wing offense is essentially what they were running. But Twinsburg, I know they had a little bit of a rough one. Not their finest season, but that's going to happen from time to time. So, tremendous year in the national division this year for sure. And Sean, tremendous job, and same with you guys with your respective conferences.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Ed, and great job as always, and want to thank you for being on here tonight.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens in the regional finals. Looking forward to seeing if Mentor moves on, who comes out of the dogfight between the Avon schools.
Yep.
And we'll see if Aurora can take down that vaunted wing T offense of the starting Hilltoppers in Division III, Region 9.
Yeah, we will see and give updates next Monday. All right, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, you too. That's Ed Dick on the RRT Productions hotline. Want to thank him for joining us. And Sean Duffy here as well.
You're welcome.
Chiming in, giving his 2 cents.
We don't multitask well at Sports on Tap.
Actually, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Considering.
If you actually listen to the show.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
You wouldn't notice.
But sometimes
But some people just have to point things out for people at home.
Right, right.
It's a rookie mistake.
All right, so look
bunch
at
of rookies in this.
Yeah, amateur hour. That's fine.
Wow. Let's do it.
Let's get going with amateur hour so we can move on to happy hour here real soon. No, I'm just kidding. No, but coming back, next week when we meet again, hopefully it'll be better organized. And no, I'm just kidding.
It'll probably be a super quick show because the teams are dwindling.
Yeah,
the amount of high school football dwindles at this point where you can really focus on one game or you could focus on 1 or 2 games, but. At a certain point, we get down to we're at the state Final Four starting next week. So there's only going to be 2 games per division. So, and if teams that we cover, conferences we cover are there, we're going to be there and we're going to talk about it. We're going to cover them as best we can. However, if they're not, we'll definitely do our best to kind of give you a picture of what the state Final Four picture looks like going forward. I know Rob will at least have one for sure. One team out of the Southwestern Conference making it to the state Final Four. You'd like to have 2, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles in that particular conference. They all play in pretty much the same region.
Yeah, so next Monday when we reconvene here on Sports on Tap, we're going to go over all the brackets, kind of looking over what's going on. And like Sean said, your state Final Four matchups will be set by next time we meet up here on Monday. And it's like Ed said, now it's down to the nitty-gritty. You're playing. Looking at the extended weather forecast doesn't seem to be too big of a factor as of right now, but
spotty showers here and there.
That could change temperatures in the 40s all week leading up to the games this Friday. So we will see. It'll be very interesting.
And, let's also kind of foreshadow a bit, as our 2019 football coverage comes to a close, it opens the door for our 2019-2020 GCHSHL hockey coverage.
Gosh,
that's right.
Good. I can never do that.
They've started up. They're starting their preseason and early season tournaments. What we're gonna do is probably start in right when they start conference play, leading into the Barron Cup. Sorry. I got GCHSHL right, but I forgot Barron Cup.
That's all right.
Kelber's going to kill me.
Well, you know what? Speaking of Kelber, that's perfect. Congratulations to the Cuyahoga Heights Redskins.
Absolutely.
As they advanced. They're the number 1 seed at 9-1, and they beat Warren John F. Kennedy 33-14, and now they'll take on the 10-2 Lucas team.
Yeah. And the athletic director is none other than friend of show, Ryan Kelber.
Yeah.
So congratulations to the Redskins.
Yep.
And an alumnus of that is my wife's cousin Alex, who also does the stats for them.
Yeah.
For the football team.
There you go.
Very nice. Well, congratulations to them on making it to the regionals. I mean, that's impressive, the semifinals, and we'll see how they turn out in that game.
That'll be it, and that's it.
That's it for Sports on Tap here from Studio J in Brunswick. I want to thank everyone for listening tonight, and great job by Ed Dick on the RRT Productions Hotline. Sean, great job. Josh, all of us going over our conferences.
Rob, good job
as
to
it
you too,
dwindled
buddy.
down. Yeah, appreciate that, Sean.
Yeah, you can't say good job to yourself because it would sound weird, but somebody's got to do it. I lost the coin flip tonight.
If you so desire, if you want to listen to this show again, it'll be loaded on YouTube for your listening pleasure. Also, check out our website, sportsontappodcast.com, for all updates and all good stuff regarding not only high school football, but coming into high school hockey.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. We are on Instagram. We are on all the social medias. We can be found anywhere podcasts are downloaded, and that's it.
Great job, guys.
Yep.
For Sean Duffy, Ed Dick, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Troutman saying so long for Sports on Tap. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next Monday at 7:30. Good luck to all the teams this Friday. See ya.
Game on.
Thanks for listening to Sports on Tap. Make sure you visit our website, www.sportsontappodcast.com. We'd also like to thank our partners, Greater Cleveland High School Hockey League, home of the Barron Cup. Z's Cream and Bean, make life sweet, eat ice cream at Z's. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win, specializing in sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. And GV Artwork and Design, original and one of a kind.